Hi, I'm Asaf, and our group consists of Jack, Nate, Hawthorne, and Max, and we're ArctiGrip. This is Jerry. He's a 55-year-old businessman who lives in the Chicago suburbs. One morning, he wakes up and realizes he's late for work. He jumps out of bed, throws on his clothes, and runs out the door. He only lives about 7 minutes away from work, so he usually just walks. The only problem is, it's the middle of winter in Chicago, so the sidewalks are covered with ice. He continues forward anyways and slips on a patch of ice and slams his shoulder against the ground. He has to skip work and go to a hospital instead. At the hospital, he talks to a doctor who decides to put him through some x-rays. And later, the results confirm that he did in fact break his shoulder. This cost him his time, money, and most importantly, his health. What Jerry needed was... Jerry's one of a million people each year who gets injured by slipping on ice. What Jerry needed was a customizable slip-on cover for your shoes that will help prevent slipping on ice and keep your shoe warm and dry. Our product also has many unique qualities such as being convenient, customizable, and it has quality materials. It will be convenient in the sense that it's easy to slip on and slip off since it's made out of stretchy material, and the customer will actually be allowed to choose where exactly they want the spikes in the garage. And of course, our product will be made of quality materials. It will be made out of TPU, which is plastic that has natural rubber-like qualities.
We used a bottoms-up method to get our total addressable market by using the total number of adults who have fallen and the price of our product to get our total addressable market at $1.2 billion. And taking into account the demographics and geographics of our target market, we concluded that our serviceable addressable market is $211 million. And in our first year projections, we project that our market share is about 0.01%. These are a few of our competitors. Yak Tracks and Ice Trekkers are more of a indirect competitor, while Swims is more direct. Yak Tracks has a strap around the shoe with metal spirals going around to add traction. And looking at the reviews on Amazon for this, many people have said that it broke easily and didn't even last 2 years. Ice Trekkers is similar to the design of Yak Tracks and also similar in the reviews that it got, where they said that the metal broke easily and also rust before they got through one season of winter. Swims is more direct because they have a galosh with spikes just similar to ours, but they're more for general slips and falls and not made for ice, while we are made more for ice. The person who's going to buy our product first is Steve Phillips. He lives in Schaumburg and he takes the train to work in Chicago. And from the train station, he walks on the sidewalk to his office building.
So we plan on marketing on Facebook and LinkedIn because our target audience is 45 to 65-year-old business people. And Facebook and LinkedIn are generally this age demographic. Facebook offers 97 cents per click, and LinkedIn offers $6.59 per 1,000 impressions.
So for our channels, our direct channel will be through our website, and then we also have our indirect channels, those being Macy's, Nordstrom, DSW, Men's Warehouse. We're going to be directing more towards the indirect, as then we can also give more customers to see the product as well just by going through the stores, and we think that that impulse purchase of buying a shoe for them it would be perfect for them to do that. The only disadvantage to this is that you will be making less money, as we'd have the wholesale for about $30% less, which is about $15 less than our price, which I'll get into. So for one unit, it's going to be one pair. Our pricing is going to be at about $49.99. When we came to you in February, we said that we wanted to do $80, but this is through just kind of comparing what the competitors were going to do and stuff like that. And through our MVP testing, which I know Jack will get into a little bit further, basically the MVP testing showed us that customers wanted it to be lower, so we then lowered it, and they really like this price of $49.99. So for our cost of goods, it's going to be $11.67. Most of it's going to go towards our golf sole and the flexible shell. These are to basically create that whole galosh type thing. And then also our spikes and the credit card. The values that will be customizable with the spikes being able to move around at the bottom. The quality products with that TPU that Isak was talking about, as well as it being convenient with it still being stretchable to put onto your shoe. So for our net profit and market share, we have projections of 500 units the first year, with a net profit of negative $2,230 and a market share of 0.01%. To year 5, we did a conversion of the shoe market growing about 3% every year from Statista. So with that projection, we got to 9,250 units our fifth year, net profit of $45,000, as well as then 0.22% of the market share.
So when we actually started MVP testing, when we were funding our $450 in February, we wanted to test these three main things. We wanted to make sure that our solution was the actual, it will actually solve our problem, and we also wanted to make sure that the consumers in our target market would actually buy it, as well as finally the pricing, as Max previously mentioned. So what we actually did in our MVP was we set out to make our original demo. What we did is we spent a week on, we just ordered these galoshes and put in the ice spikes into these galoshes and sent them out to 6 different people for 2 weeks' time. After we got those back, we gave them out to 25 for a small amount of time, just for about an hour apiece, so we get like individual small feedback and how it lasts over time and how it wears and how it tears. From that information, we started to create our second demo. However, this second demo was significantly different from our first. In fact, our second demo, the people in our focus groups mainly focused on that they wanted customizability. And they said that they wanted different spikes in different spots because people walk differently. Some people will roll their toes, and some people will stomp on their heels, and they can slip easier depending on the way they walk. So what we decided to do on the second demo is create a screw-in mechanism to each individual ice spike for the galosh. However, as we were making it, as we were trying to create this homemade second demo, we would try and screw in these ice spikes, and it would not only it would leave a large mark inside the rubber galosh, and there was a possibility that the screw might go through the shoe and not only damage the shoe, but possibly hurt the person. So we realized that this was not a very plausible idea of a screw. So so we did try testing it on a couple shoes, and it did slightly work, but there was some rubber damage clearly on the actual galoshes. So on our third and final demo, we're still working on actually creating it. However, what we decided to do is create a bottom where you can, with clicking mechanisms. So the ice spike, the individual small ice spikes, will have attachments into a bottom of with squares, and you can pick exactly where you want it to be. And from that, we wanted to make, now that we have a good idea of what exactly we need from our MVP testing, we wanted to make sure that we could actually make it, and it was possible to make. So we called up we emailed 15 manufacturers with 7 responses, and from these responses, it's very possible to make from these manufacturers. However, the startup costs were significantly higher than we thought originally, due to the fact that they have to create a stainless steel mold, which costs over $100,000 for an individual mold, and so we needed a significantly different way, as this was not very plausible at the start. So as we kept looking into possible ways to create either galoshes or some kind of rubber boot sole, we found out that Adidas and Nike actually 3D model a very large majority of their shoes. So when we saw this information, we immediately looked into it and found out the product of a TPU, which is similar to rubber, but it's made out of plastic, so it's easily 3D modeled, and that would completely eliminate the $100,000 plus startup costs. So a 3D modeling and printer would be the way that we would figure it out. And after messaging a 3D printer manufacturer, they said it was very possible. However, they did not. They said that they would not be willing to make it, but it was a very possible idea. So as I mentioned from it, this would be the kind of clicking mechanism. Although this is a Vans shoe, it kind of gives an idea of what it would look like. It would be more squares, and you could, on the bottom of the ice spike, you could just kind of flick it into the individual small lining of it, so you can pick exactly where you want to be. And we figured out that it works. The ice spikes, you will not slip on ice, and your shoes will stay warm and dry, exactly what we wanted. So from that, obviously, from all this MVP, we made sure that customizability was our #1 thing, and then the ease of use, slipping on and slipping off, was also a major thing that they wanted, and we figured out that with the TPU, it is a very structural material as well, and you can easily take it on and off. So from our $450 that we originally funded, we are left with $62.21. This was coming from the rubber galoshes we purchased, the ice spikes, and then the 2 different kinds of ice spikes, and some outsoles that we tried doing with different kinds of outsoles.
So we're asking for $7,125 for 29.6% of our company. Where we got this from was our $3,459 of startup costs, which is listed to the right, and we have our projected $2,227 maximum accumulative loss, and then with a $989 liquidity cushion. Thank you so much for your time, and remember, never slip with ArctiGrip.
in product development, trying to find the thing that works. Can you go back to that last slide? Yeah, you're budgeting roughly, it looks like about $1,000 for developing kind of the solution. I'm wondering whether maybe that's a little light. I mean, Margarita, do you remember what they spent on product development for CleatGuard?
Well, what they spent on product development, I think, was a blush compared to what they spent on legal fees in prior art patent research. Because any element that was similar to anything anybody else has got in a shoe, they automatically could not use. So I think they spent close to $40,000 just on legal art research right there.
So it's just maybe a like chink in the armor in terms of making this a real thing that may require a lot more money than you think.
I encourage you guys, you tried and you kind of ran into a wall and you pivoted, you kept on pivoting to try to
Yeah.
get to a workable product, so I really applaud that. I think you said the latest kind of version of this, which obviously hasn't been made, but he did say that it did work. Can you kind of explain kind of the mechanism itself in a little bit more detail and what you did to prove your concept?
So I think I may have slightly misspoken that. What I meant was the ice spikes, the tungsten ice spikes, it did work, and we concluded that the person will not slip on ice when using these, and it's also not a, like when you're wearing either like a sport cleat, you may notice that you're kind of, you can feel the cleat and you kind of slip with that on just normal concrete, whereas these very small tungsten spike tips, they will make sure that you have really good grip on whether that's concrete or a sheet of ice. However, we haven't fully gotten into the click-in mechanism. However, we do have a somewhat good idea of it from just the attachment of it'll kind of come in and then like the sides will be out, if that makes sense.
Not really, but I'm a visual person, so.
Sorry.
That's okay, it's me. So what did you do to prove that these things actually did work?
As I said, we gave it to 6 different people for extended amounts of time, for 2 different weeks when they walked on it, in March and February when it was colder and when there was ice out on the roads and the sidewalks. And we also gave it to 25 people just to slip it on over their shoes for whether that could range from 30 seconds to an hour, however
So
much
these
you
were
want to
the
wear.
plastic pieces though, right? Those were the prior versions?
Yes, those were the original first demo, because we just want to make sure that we actually could make ice spikes that would work, that they wouldn't slip on ice to solve the first problem.
How did you firm up your price for, you said you reduced it from $80 down to $50. Was that to tie it into one of the competitor products, or was it feedback?
So that was before. The competitors were like what we were looking at before, but then from the feedback from our focus groups, they said that they kind of wanted it to be, a little bit lower to pay for it, and then we chose 50 and they liked it a lot more.
Yeah, for example, like Swims is $99 to purchase, which is, in our eyes, we saw that we were just very similar to them. However, maybe our Swims is the highest quality galosh you can purchase, so our quality might be very slightly worse than them, but we still would have a quality material, so we bumped it down very slightly. However, when we looked at the cost of goods and we looked at the feedback we were actually receiving, they said, yeah, we might not buy this for $80, but $50 seems very reasonable for something that may last for a very long time and something that similar to that.
When you looked at the number of sales of your product, it's a very seasonal product. You take that into account that you have to sell X amount in a very short period of time, and you're going to go through many months where you're probably not going to sell much at all.
Yes, we did. On our model, our financial model we have where, the summer months it's basically zero, and then at that time, that's when you'd be like, stocking up an inventory and doing all your other stuff that you'd be doing. That's what we were thinking of.
What do you guys think? What's the future look like?
As of right now, our group plans on ending our experience today.
I think we're all very interested in the idea of the entrepreneurship. However, we keep hitting a lot of walls with this product, I think. So I think think we definitely, I don't know, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I would be very interested in obviously continuing to maybe possibly getting hired an accelerator.
But a
it's just
different concept.
but maybe a different concept.
I think Mr. Groom and Mr. McElroy had said, I totally applaud that you guys didn't give up, that you kept iterating and testing a different approach, because that ultimately is what it's about until you find that fit with the marketplace of what they actually need and are willing to pay for. I totally applaud that you guys did not give up and kept trying and adjusting. So great quality, guys.
Thank you.
Good job, guys. Thank you.